So let me start with, I guess the one piece of advice I would give, which is while I was an intern at UTD, or while I was a student at UTD, I did an internship at Senator Kay Bailey Hutchison's office. And, you never know when you're going to get that, little word of wisdom or who is going to come. But the secretary at that office, she said to me one day, she goes, as you go through life, you can lose everything, right? You can lose your house. You can lose your car, you can lose your mom, your dad, your friends, your loved ones, but there's one thing you can't lose, and that's your education. And that really hit home with me for some strange reason, but I guess it was just because it is really true. Once you earn that degree, it is yours. It's not going to be taken away from you. And as a result, I think it is something that should truly be valued. I really do. And so, that would be the one piece of advice that I would give to folks, which is value that education, because it will always be with you. You will always have it once you attain it. I didn't just start a brewery. I enrolled with the program to learn, the theory. It's kind of like law school. When you go to law school, they teach you legal theory. They don't teach you how to be a lawyer. You have to figure that out on your own. And it's the same thing with the brew schooling I went through. They teach you theory, excuse me, but it wasn't until I worked with a buddy of mine in Colorado that I figured out the practical application. But once you have the theory, the practical application follows. We all have our strengths and we all have our weaknesses. Because of my legal background, one of my strengths was handling the TTV, the TABC. I remember my first conversation with the TTV agent who reviewed my application to open up a brewery, to get a permit to brew. And she said, no, this is about the most thorough application that I have ever seen. So it served me very well in that capacity. Changing the law like I did here, it really served me well that I had the legal background to do that. But with that, also have some serious deficiencies. I'm not a marketer. I'm not a marketing guy, as a result of that, it's kind of shaped the way we do business here. I mean, we don't even sell our beer. We don't go into bars to sell our beer. We let it sell itself. But, for every strength you have, you also have weaknesses. But ultimately, one thing you've got to have, two things you've got to have actually is a superior product. You've got to have a great product. You've got to have great branding. The nature of small business is that the majority of them fail. So you better have a darn good product, you better have good branding. Even with both of that, you can certainly fail, but it will at least help you. And then you've got to have a work ethic. It is a labor-intensive job. People think that we're just sitting around drinking beer. What they don't think of is lifting up these 50-pound bags of grain, milling them in, literally shoveling out, a ton, 2 tons worth of grain, getting it out on the dock, moving around big heavy kegs all the time. It's a labor-intensive job, so you've got to have a work ethic. I hear half the big brewers out there, I'm nothing. I'm a drop in the bucket to those guys. They don't even know who I am. I'm just trying to create a local market. The beer guys here in DFW, they know my beer, but the average guy walking down the street, if I just stop the next guy I see and say, hey, what's your favorite Peticolas beer? He's going to say, what'd you just say? He's not even going to know, but what I do try to do is differentiate myself from all the other guys that are around here. And I've done that in a number of ways. First and foremost, as I mentioned, I don't hire people from the outside, right? I hire people only who have this huge love for what we're doing here. And to me, that's the best kind of employee, someone that actually believes in what I'm doing and what this brewery is doing. They're the perfect fit. Secondly, I don't think there is another brewery around here that started the way we started, which is the ownership structure. This brewery is owned by 5 people. Me, my wife, my 10-year-old daughter, and my twin 7-year-olds. There's not another single person who owns any fraction of this brewery. We don't owe a penny to a bank. We don't owe a penny to an investor, right? In fact, if you look at our logo, you'll see a pentagon in the kind of one side of it, and that pentagon references the 5 owners of the brewery, 5 members of my family. Also within that pentagon is a little 2010. That denotes the year I wrote the business plan, but the 2 also represents me and my wife. The 1 represents my firstborn daughter. Each 0 represents each twin. So there is a lot about my family within that logo, and it goes back to the core values of us personally at home, or what we really try to have this brewery embodied, right? And you're not going to find other breweries that were structured the way this is. Most of them are very heavily investor funded. As a result of that, they're having to answer that to their investors or the banks that they borrow money from. We don't have to do that. We can really grow at our own rate, keep us happy. We don't have to answer to anybody. We don't have to go to the board of directors to talk. When you call me up to do something, I can give you an answer. I don't have to go to the board or anything and talk to that. So that differentiates us. Another thing that differentiates us from some of the other guys is packaging. We don't bottle or can our beer, right? I'm very unconventional in my approach. I thought about bottling about a year ago. Gave it some serious consideration, decided against it, and since that time what you have seen is, these other 20, 21 brewers I'm talking about that are here, they all bottle or can, every single one of them. Or if they don't already do it, they've got the equipment on the way. When I see everyone doing one thing, I do the opposite. And so I find if everyone else is doing that, I'm not going to do that. It's kind of cemented my belief, our family's belief, and taking a risk on yourself. It's one of the reasons we opened this brewery. We see our financial accounts, or our retirement accounts, I should say, dwindling in 2008. The crash, just terrible. And I'm thinking to myself, why am I invested in these companies that are cooking their books, acting fraudulently? They're losing my money. They're losing my retirement income. Why don't we just invest in ourselves? The absolute worst thing that can happen is this brewery fails. But I would have rather tried it, and it's the same thing with opening the law firm. I wouldn't have been able to look at myself at the age of 60 in the mirror having never tried it. And so we thought, you know what? I would rather risk on ourselves, risk our own money investing in ourselves than continuing to invest in these guys who are losing our money and we don't know anything about. And, again, it's still just 3 years in, but that was my short-term goal, be in business for 3 years. And we've certainly met that, or we're going to meet it next month. We're certainly not going to go out of business this month. It will continue to be the way that I operate, just kind of that. I don't know if nonconformist is really the proper term, but as a result of the experience or the successes that we've experienced, we'll continue to do it that way.